Ready? Bais. Bais. Masechta. The Rabbi Paracher was running after the Alter Rebbe. He had a kasha Masechta Erachin. Remember the story? Every place that he came to, the Alter Rebbe had just left. Oh, yeah. He could never catch up to the Alter Rebbe. He heard that
that was Napoleon. Was that Napoleon?
Yeah, with Napoleon also. He came to a place. He heard that the Alter Rebbe was coming to a certain place. He came to that place ahead of time, and he hid in the hotel room. He was hiding under the bed,
under the table, under something.
He was hiding, and the Alter Rebbe came in, and the Alter Rebbe said that a yid that has a kasha in Masechta Erachin should first be Meirach himself. Should first evaluate himself, and then and Rabbi fainted. And when he came to, so the Alter Rebbe had already left, and so I don't think he ever really saw the Alter Rebbe, but he was a student of the Mitzvah Rabbi and the Tzemach Tzedek. When the Tzemach Tzedek said that he had like 2.5 chassidim or something. I forget who it was. 1.5 chassidim. So the half was Reb Hillel because he wasn't really a chassid. He was like half a rebbe. So that was the way that was explained. Who was the other one? Who was the other chassid?
Rabbi Paracher was the half chassid, right? He wrote Pelachim and all that stuff. Isaac Humler.
Very nice. Okay, so Hakol Marichin v'Nerachin. Everyone is able to be Meirach, and Meirach means that they can say that they're donating someone else's value as a gift to the temple. How much is another person's value? So it depends on their age. In between 1 month and 5 years is one value. In between 5 years and 20 is another value. In between 20 and 60 is another value. And over 60 is another one. So it depends on their age. And then it's different for men and women. All of that goes under the category of Meirach. And Nerachin means that every person, no matter what age, unless he's under 20, can be evaluated. And be, there's the subject and the object here. The subject, every person can do this, and every person it can be done too. It's the object of it. V'nerachin. Someone else could evaluate them and donate their value to the temple based on their age. Now, noijin v'nidarim is exactly the same thing. You can give the value of someone to the Bais HaMikdash, and their value could be given to the Bais HaMikdash. You could give, the subject, you could be the giver, and also you could be the object. Someone could give your value. What's the difference if it's the same thing? The difference is that Noijin v'Nidarim is you're not giving their value based on their age. You're giving their value based on how much they would be worth as a slave. It's a different value. And there's a lot of factors that could change this. Just because the person's 20 years old doesn't mean he has the value of a slave. Or if someone's 19, it could be he's better than a 59-year-old or something. Okay, who goes into this category of Hakol, of everyone? That includes Koyanim. They could give this gift, or they could be the object of the gift. Leviim, Yisraelim, Noshim can contribute, or you could give someone else a woman's value. Avadim, even a slave, which is very interesting, because if you're evaluating someone as a slave, so here you have the actual slave. It doesn't matter, he still has value out of a slave. Tumtum v'androginus. When it comes to a tumtum and androginus, so then things get a little confused. This is going to adjust one aspect here. And that is because when it comes to haracha, so it's different for a male and for a female. Because when it goes by the age, so tumtum and androgynous, where it's a doubt, so they are only able to be noidrin v'nidarim. They can give someone's value as a slave, and someone can give their value as a slave. However, when it comes to marichin, they could give someone else's. We accept their donations to the temple. But if someone gives their value based on their age, so because haracha only works on a male or a female. It's different according to their age. In this, they're not. It's definitely.
What's the difference between nidun and avavodim in the beginning?
Noidrin v'nidarim.
Noidrin v'nidarim, and then it says vavodim after nashim. You said that noidrin and v'nidarim. Did you say that was slaves?
Noidrin v'nidarim is giving
value
someone's value of a slave.
Well, that's
and
the actual
even
slave.
if it's a slave, it's still the same. Okay. Can still give the value. A deaf mute or an imbecile or a child. Nidarim v'nerachin. They could be the object. Someone else could give their value, whether it's a value of a slave or based on their age. Avaloy noidrin, but they can't take a vow themselves to give. Avaloy marichin, and they also can't take this value to give. The two types of giving, either giving as a slave or giving based on age. Because they don't have the intent when they commit. They don't have the intent there. Okay, the following Gemara. Is a very interesting collection of all the different hakols that we have in Shas. So it goes through. There's many Mishnayos that say they start off. This is one of the. It's a certain type of Mishnah that says everyone can do this. Hakol shaychtim, hakol chayavim b'sukkah, hakol whatever it is. And now over here it's going to say, why did you have to make that rule, hakol, everyone can do this, and then you go through the list of who's included. If you go through the list, you don't need the hakol. And or the opposite, say hakol and you don't need the list. What is the hakol coming to include once you have the list? We start off with our own Mishnah, and then we get carried away. Then we take it off into others. So hakol marichin la'asuyei mai. When we say over here that everyone can be Mayrich, now our Mishnah, what we're going to do is we gave four halachas. Everyone could be Mayrich. Everyone can give someone else's value. Everyone could be the object of that gift. They could be the person that someone's giving their value. And the same is with Noidrin v'nidarim. So we're going to go through the hakol on each of them. What is hakol marichem including? Lasuyim mufla samach lish. What happens is you have the pasuk there? No, it doesn't quote you the pasuk. Let me get the pasuk from this commentary here. The pasuk says, "Ish kiyafli linda neder."
So, Hakol Arishim means the value. We have to value subjects. Do you understand it correctly or not?
Hakol marichem.
It's like you shamai. You value the subjects. Let's say how much this can score. How much this
Yeah, but here we're talking specifically about people. Yeah, in English, the subject. I took you to the store, so I'm the subject and you're the object. So over here the marichin is the subject. Everyone can be Mayrich. Everyone can give someone else's value. And the nerachin means they could be the object of someone else's gift. That's the... Okay, so it says... The Gemara learns that even though normally a child is not responsible for his actions or for mitzvahs, But there's one exception to that, and that's a child that's 12 years old that knows, that understands that when he takes a vow, that he understands that he's taking a vow to God. So then he is responsible for those vows biblically, not just because we have to educate him. That's the father's obligation, but he's actually responsible from age 12. It's called mufla samach lesh. The Gemara learns it from the pasuk. Ishki yafli linder neder. That if he's, I guess the word mufla would mean that he separates, or that he's discerning. Do they translate mufla? An articulate minor. That's what they call it. Okay. On the verge of adulthood. Samach le'ish. He's next to being an adult. You follow?
Yeah,
So what we're doing here is when we say hakol, everyone can do this vow, can give this pledge. It's including the 12-year-old. Okay, now we ask, because that hakol, everyone, goes on ma'irech and nerach.
Just one else. So when you do Geiris, does that mean that the boys, the minimum is 12 years old and 11 for a girl?
So it's interesting, but the Gemara says that you can be Magayer a child, but he doesn't take his own commitment. It's the best. It's al das Bezdin. The Bezdin commits for him. So
that's why it can be done early.
So that's why it could be even a child. There's only one problem there, and that is there's like this wild card that goes in there, is that
he's 13.
Does a non-Jew reach maturity at age 13? Or can you look at him and talk to him and see if he reached maturity at a younger age? Because their age 13 is the age for a Jew.
He could say he does not interested.
Yeah.
You have to ask him.
But let's say he converts at age 12, and he's very mature. So is he considered a minor as a non-Jew? So that's like this wild card that goes in there that throws that all numbers off. You follow that?
Yeah.
Okay. Nerachin
gets the worm.
La'asuyei mai. Everyone could be the object of such a gift. La'asuyei minuvel amukashchin. This is interesting. Someone that doesn't have much of a value because he has some severe disease, afflicted with boils, or he's repulsive. So if you would try to sell him as a slave, he wouldn't have any value. And the only thing is that here we're not selling him, we're not looking at his value as a slave, we're looking at his value of his age. So the Gemara says like this: Sal Kedaita Chamina could have entered your mind to say, Neder be'er kichaksiv, that when you look at the pasuk says, uses the word neder, a vow, and neder means also the value of as a slave. So I could have put them together, and I could have said, Kol sheyeshnim b'dam yeshnim be'erachin. Anyone that has value as a slave also has value of haracha, of the age. V'chol she'einu b'dam emeinu be'erachin. And anyone that doesn't have value of a slave doesn't have value of erachin either. So kamash malan, the Mishnah is teaching us that nefashes koldu, that anyone that's alive has the value. Anyone that's alive has the value of nerach, even though he doesn't have value of. That's what we're learning from hakol. Hakol nerach. Okay. Next case, this fourth. Noijin lasuyimai. What about taking a vow that you're going to give someone's value as a slave to the temple? What's that coming to include? Once you listed all the people, why do I need to say everyone can do this? So the Gemara says, actually, for that we don't really need to say this. But the reason why we said this is for the next case, which we can get away with. Nidarim, it's strichlei. It's strichlei. We need it for the nidarim. Everyone as the object of such a gift. Everyone could be evaluated as a slave in their value given to the temple. They're not the recipient; they're the object. The recipient is the temple. They're the object of this evaluation. So the Gemara says, okay, well, that's accepted, but nidarim lasu yemai. So what is that coming to include? Ilasu tumtum androgynous. If you want to tell me that a tumtum and androgynous, someone that their gender is undetermined, and you want to say that they could be the object of such an evaluation, and given that their value as a slave to the temple, behedya ktani lahu, that can't be included because of this rule. Well, you just listed that. He said tumtum and androgynous are nidarim, noidrim v'nidarim. So and if you want to include a deaf mute, an imbecile, and a child, so behedya ktani lahu, that you already said. So what are you getting? Who is being included by this extra term? If you want to include that it's someone that's under 1 month of age, now here we have the following Mishnah. If you have turn 2-3 pages, it's on Daf Hey. It says Pachas Ben Chodesh Nider Avalei Nerach. In your Gemara, it's going to be hard to turn because you see how the Hebrew works. The translation is only translating those 2 lines. So to turn several pages in the Hebrew, you have to turn like here. So, but right here, you hold it here, grab that. So then here it says Pachas Ben Chodesh Nider Avalei Nerach. Someone that's under 1 month old, the vow is, he could be the object of such a evaluation, of such a vow of a leinerach, but he's not the object of haracha, because that starts from 1 month old. So if hakol, that's what the pasuk says. Ben chodesh, what's the pasuk over there? The pasuk says from 1 month to 5 years has a certain value, and it doesn't say what about under a month. So, but when it comes to nidarim, it doesn't say that.
Not considered a person under a month for certain purposes.
Right. So if it's coming to include that the nidarim, that they could be the object of such a gift and he's under a month, behedi ktani lo, I have the Mishnah and Daf Hey. That can't be included in hakol. Maybe it's coming to include a non-Jew. This is interesting. We didn't say anything about a non-Jew in the Mishnah. So hakol nidarim, everyone could be the object. Very good. So maybe it's coming to include a non-Jew. The Gemara says no, because ovid kechavim is behedi ktani lo. That ovid kechavim, that they could be the object of such a evaluation. That it also says clearly. That's not on Daf Hamid Aleph, that's on Daf Hamid Bais, when it's a machlekes, Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. But whatever the case is, it has that clearly in there. So, that can't be included by the hakol. The Gemara answers, Li'olam lasu yipachas men chodesh. Let's go back to what we said. We're actually including the child that's under 1 month old. We have that clearly in the Mishnah. It says, Vatani v'hadim mefarish. Here we list it in the general rule, but then we go and we detail, we give all the details, we enumerate, we give out all the details, we explain them afterwards. When it says, Tani v'hadim mefarish, Rashi first explains this, that we could have said, Tani v'hadim mefarish by all the other suggestions that we gave. We said maybe it's tumtum androgynous, maybe it's cher shaita v'katan, ovid kecham. We could have done that by all of them. Tani v'hadim mefarish. We're teaching it, and now we're going to explain it later. That this is an answer that could answer any of those. But then Rashi goes on. He says that maybe not. Maybe it's specifically by this case where there is a machlekes regarding this. So that's why the Hadar Mefarish is introducing the machlekes. And by this case specifically, we wanted to do the Tani v'Hadar Mefarish.
If this case is more ambiguous, that it has to be explained?
Well,
the other ones are more like it's like, there's more room to say, there's more options.
It doesn't seem like this is any more significant than the other options, other than the machlekes then. Okay. We've explained the hakol, why it has to say hakol. in our Mishnah. Now we're going to go to another Mishnah. Hakol Saimchen Lasui Imai. Why does it say that everyone can do smicha on an animal? Smicha means that when you bring a sacrifice to the temple, it says in the Torah that you should put your hands over the animal and lean on it. Now it says everyone can do that. And then it lists who's the everyone. So we're asking, why does it need to say everyone?
It's not just a Kohen.
It's not the Kohen, it's the owner. But we're asking, why does it need to say everyone if you then go and list all? Just to clarify what's going on over here. I remember an exterminator came to the house, and they to get rid of the whatever. They said, but over the roaches. They said over the next few days you may find them on the floor, still on the floor, in the cabinets, on the counters, on the walls, and on the ceilings also. So why he has to tell? You may find them in the house, and then he goes and he tells all the. That's exactly what we're talking about. You don't have to, like we are not. So here the Mishnah says that everyone can do this.
Why the Mishnah specify?
And then it says who? A Kayan, a Levi, Yisrael, a man, a woman, a child. You don't have to. If you say everyone, then you already said that. Okay. So when it says everyone does smicha, so the Mishnah goes on to list Lasuyimai. Who's it coming to include? The Gemara says no. This is interesting. That hakol is Lasuya Yoirish. Let's say there's a person that dedicated an animal to the temple and he passed away. The child is going to bring that sacrifice. But the child is not the original owner. It's the father. So does the child do the smicha in place of the father? So hakol is including the child. Everyone does smicha including that child that wasn't listed in the Mishnah. With the like Rabbi Yehuda, and this argues with Rabbi Yehuda. We'll get back to Rabbi Yehuda in a second. Now we do Hakol Mamirim, another Mishnah. It says everyone can do Tamura. Doesn't mean that they're allowed to do Tamura. Tamura means you exchange the sacrifice for another animal. It says clearly in the Torah that you should not do that. But when it means everyone can do that, that means that everyone that does it, it's effective. And the new animal becomes consecrated, even though it's a violation. And now we have two consecrated animals. So Hakol Mamira means everyone that does it, it's effective. Lasuya Mai, who's that coming to include? If you list all the people, it says that's Lasuya Yairish. That's also coming to include someone that wasn't the original owner of that sacrifice because the original owner passed away, and this is the inheritor. Udalek Rabbi Yehuda, and it's not like Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Now we'll get into what does Rabbi Yehuda hold. Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eily, the one that we had yesterday as the Stam Sifra, right? Remember yesterday we had Stam Sifra was Rabbi Yehuda. This Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eily. The Tanya was taught in a Bais Yerush Semich Yerush Meimer. An inheritor can do smicha on his father's sacrifice, and he can also do Tamura on his father's sacrifice. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Rabbi Yehuda says Yerush and a Semich Yerush and a Meimer. Rabbi Yehuda says no, he can't. Can't do either of them. The Gemara is going to explain why. What's the machlekes based on? My time at the Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda? Why does he have this opinion? Follow down. Ignore all the comments. You'll get lost. It'll take you like years to get through the Talmud. So more than 7. So follow we're up to here. We're down here, so you see my. So Yerush. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda? It says Karbanai v'lei Karban Aviv. Let's get the pasuk here. V'samach yadai al reish karbanai. He rests his hands. He leans his hands on the head of his sacrifice. Now, there's actually 3 psukim that have this. V'samach yadai al reish karbanai. Rabbi Yehuda says karbanai, his sacrifice, v'loi karban aviv, but not his father's sacrifice. Karbanai has a possessive pronoun. his sacrifice, that vav at the end. So v'yalef tchilas hekdesh misayf hekdesh. We learn the beginning of consecration from the end of consecration. The beginning of consecration is when you dedicate the animal. The end of consecration is when you're sacrificing it. Sacrificing it means that you're leaning your hands on it and you're about to do the shechita. The beginning of consecration is you still have it in the house. You're about to bring it, and you decide you're going to bring a different one instead of this one. So tchilas hekdesh is tmura, seif hekdesh is smicha. The beginning of the consecration is exchanging it, and the end of consecration is putting the hands on it. So we say when it comes to putting the hands on it, it says only the father can do it, only the original owner, not the child. So now Rabbi Yehuda comes along and says, "Ma seif hekdesh yerush and seimech." Just like when it comes to putting the hands on it, only the actual owner, not the inheritor. So to have tchilas hekdesh yerush and meimer, also the beginning of consecration, the inheritor cannot exchange it, and it's not effective if he tries to. He wasn't the one that originally designated it. For Rabbanan, what do? The Rabbanan take it exactly the opposite. There's a double expression when it comes to exchanging. It says Hamer Yamer, and if he will exchange it, and there's a double expression. And that double expression includes L'Rabbi says Hayorish. It includes the inheritor. The Alfinan Seif Hekdesh Mitchilas Hekdesh. And they learn the end of consecration, which means putting your hands on it right before the slaughtering, from the beginning of consecration, which is Tmura. Ma Tchilas Hekdesh Yerish Meimer. Just like when it comes to the beginning of consecration, which is talking about exchanging. The inheritor can exchange it, not that he's allowed to, but if he does, it's effective. Also, when it comes to the end of consecration, the inheritor can put his hands on it.
Yorish have to be above 12. Yorish can be.
Oh, interesting.
Yorish can be Antigonus and stuff that he cannot have.
We have to look in Tmura. I have a Tmura in here. First Mishnah. Over here it just says Hakol Mimirim, Echad Anashim Vechad Nashim. Under 12, you wouldn't be obligated in mitzvahs. You wouldn't be under 12. You wouldn't be obligated in mitzvahs.
Well, it makes you two.
It's only bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah, yeah.
So Cheresh, Eily,
all of those are exempt from mitzvahs.
Exempt from this to be able to Yorish from Yerusha, no?
Right. No, do they inherit? They inherit, but they don't have the obligations that would go along with this. So, okay, here we have a problem. You see, we have two sources here. We have a source of smicha, which excludes the inheritor, which the Rabbanan are ignoring. We have a source of tmura, which includes the inheritor, which Rabbi Yehuda is ignoring. We have to go back and forth. What is each side going to do with the one that they're ignoring? How are they just ignoring that? Rabbanan, hai karbani mayavdile. What do they do with that possessive pronoun that says that only his sacrifice you do smicha on, not the inheritor? The Rabbanan say mibayle karbani v'le karbani v'tkechavim. There's 3 verses there. It says karbani 3 times. One of them is that you don't do smicha on a non-Jew sacrifice. That sacrifice that came from Nero or whoever, who was the emperor that sent the sacrifice. He wasn't there. He sent
They made a cut on the lip.
The cut on the lip. So it would be a non-Jew sacrifice. There would be no smicha on that. Karbani v'le karban chaverei. You don't do a karban on your friend's sacrifice if you're bringing it from wherever he's sending it. Karbanai and the karbanai l'rabais, it's coming to include kol bali chayvron l'smicha. Let's say people are sending a sacrifice in partnership. 5 people decide, let's give a donation. So each one is a partial owner. So his sacrifice is coming to include that each of them need to do smicha because they're each a partial owner in this. So 2 exclusions and 1 inclusion. So the Rabbanan are using karbanai. They've left out not the inheritor aspect, and therefore they never have an exclusion of the inheritor. Rabbi Yehuda, what does he do? He uses karbanai to exclude the inheritor. The Rabbi's kol balachev l'smicha leslie. He doesn't hold that. He holds that partners don't need to do not each partner needs to do it. You send it with one messenger, that's good enough. One of the partners brings it, everyone else stays, they don't need to do smicha. Inami yislei, and even if he does hold of that, we're suggesting here what Rabbi Yehuda may do. Ovid kecham lechaber mechad kra nafki. It's up here. It's up here. Now we're on the top of this page. A non-Jew and his friend, or if you're bringing your friend's sacrifice, that you can learn from one pasuk. Why? Because if it's not your own sacrifice, and you're bringing a sacrifice of your friend, you don't do smicha. So what's the difference if it's not your own because it's your friend, or what's the difference if it's not your own because it's a non-Jew?
Yeah, but the non-Jew is the owner. He should be doing it.
Right here. What he's learning here
That seems doesn't.
that
it's obvious
the guy is not doing it. The question is, does the Jew that's bringing it have to do it? You wanted to say different.
Obviously,
Yeah.
non-Jew cannot participate.
Yeah.
So the one bring it, you have to solve
You
it.
follow his
No,
question?
there was no summit on it. Right.
Rabbi Yehuda is
No,
saying.
something else after the
Rabbi Yehuda is saying that I can use what we're trying to do. We're trying to free up one of the words karbanai,